What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to another episode of Axel's Analysis. As always, I'm your host, the Indian Informer, and your NXT nerd, Axel Mulligan. Decent, decent. It was passable, rather, this week. Passable episode of NXT. And that was mainly because of the main event and the first match. The commentary team was Brennan, Albert, and Renee Young. Decent enough job. Let's move on. Sami Zayn and a Titus O'Neil WWE.com interview kicked off the show. Sami was asked about Neville's comments from last week when he said about him not being able to win the big one. Basically, Sami said, whatever's happened in the past, that's behind me now. I'm looking forward to my road to redemption. Titus O'Neil came in and he cut him off, basically saying that Sami hasn't beaten him yet, and to get to Adrian Neville, he's got to go through himself. So basically what he's saying is Sami's got to go through Tyson if he wants to move on to the next stage on his road to redemption. Sami asked, is that a challenge? He said, Titus said it was more of an open invitation, because he doesn't like to use the word challenge. He said it's an open invitation. So Titus walks off and Sami just calls it another roadblock on his road to redemption. So that's our main event for the night, is Sami Zayn versus Titus O'Neil. Tag Team Battle Royal #1 contenders match to kick off the show. You've got Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains, Ty Dillinger and Jason Jordan, the Ascension, and Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake. Typical start to a Battle Royal, really, where you had the guys trying to beat each other down and throw them over the top rope. And I don't like the start of Battle Royals. Royal Rumbles are fine because you only get one-on-one. You get a one-on-one match, and then a minute later you get a triple threat and a fatal four-way, and by which time you've normally had an elimination. So the numbers start to thin out, and then towards the middle part of the Rumbles where it gets boring. Battle Royals, until it gets down to the last 3 or 4 people, I just think this is fucking boring, because it's just the same tactics throughout. Obviously, unless you've got a guy like someone like a Kofi Kingston who's going to have his Battle Royal spot like he normally does. It just doesn't do much for me, really. Don't get me wrong, you do get some decent little spots, other than the Kofi Kingston spots. But generally, Battle Royals, until it gets down to the last 3 or 4 people, yeah. This one just didn't really do much. As much as the story told towards the end was good, other than that, it was just your general Battle Royal, really. First eliminations came. It was Buddy Murphy was trying to throw Ty Dillinger over the top rope on one side of the ring. On the other side, Jason Jordan was trying to throw Wesley Blake over. And the Ascension were giving the ground and pound attack to the Vaudevillains. So you had Connor in one corner taking out Simon Gotch, and you had Victor in the other corner taking out Aiden English. It might have been the other way around, I can't remember that. I'm pretty sure that's how it was anyway. And they basically disposed of them under the bottom ropes. And they met in the middle of the ring. They looked at each other. They looked to the side of them. Connor went through Buddy Murphy and Ty Dillinger over. And Victor threw Jason Jordan and Wesley Blake over. So now we're down to 3 teams. So it's Enzo and Cass still in the ring. They've been beaten down. And the Vaudevillains are on the outside. And so both teams square off in the middle of the ring. Enzo and Cass give it the how you doing. That's my awful impression, as always. And basically, what it was, you had Connor versus Cass, and that is a match I'd like to see one-on-one. Give them good time, because they can both work the ring, they can both wrestle. Regardless of the outcome, we all know Connor would pick up the win. I think it would just be a good all-out slugfest, really. Proper old school fight. And then you had Cass versus Victor. And so both sort of sides were evenly matched. They went at each other. The Ascension eventually got the upper hand. And what happened was Connor threw Cass over the top rope, thought he'd eliminated him. He hadn't. He held on, caught up on the apron. And Enzo had been beaten down. And the Ascension picked him up, threw him into Cass, knocked Cass off. And Enzo threw the ropes, meaning that Enzo and Cass had been eliminated. And then no sooner had they been eliminated, Hideo Itami came out to distract the Ascension, and he did a good enough job of it because he did distract them enough for the Vaudevillains to run in. Aiden English threw Connor over the top rope, and Simon Gotch threw Victor over the top rope, both at the same time. New number one contenders for the NXT Tag Team Champions are the Vaudevillains. They left the ring. The Ascension got back into the ring, obviously pissed off that they'd lost. Hideo rushed down to the ring, started kicking the shit out of the Ascension, but obviously, as usual, the numbers game caught up to him. Connor cut a little promo after the beatdown, basically saying that nobody wants you here in NXT. Go back to Japan where you belong, and if you don't, we'll be sending you back in a box. And I thought that was brilliant from Connor because it got him a bit of heat. Because generally the Ascension are over. People generally like the Ascension. I don't know why, but people generally like the Ascension, and that was a good way to get them some heat. And Connor, he sort of pushed the boundaries as well with PG in a way, I suppose, because it was like basically, I'm going to fucking kill you. So, brilliant from Connor. And well done to whoever, sort of, if Connor came up with that on his own, well done to him, or whoever came up with it, well done, because it got what the Ascension needed, and that's heat, because they don't get enough of it. But no, brilliant way to start the show. And as I say, the Vaudevillains, number one contenders, I'd imagine now their championship match will be at the next TakeOver event, which is in December. Emma versus Carmella was up next, and this was not a good match, in my opinion. Just didn't flow all that smoothly, really. Something I like to see is if you've got two people going up against one another, things have just got to flow, and the chemistry just didn't seem on, and it didn't work for me. But I suppose this is the place to do it before you get to the main event, the main roster, SmackDown and Raw, main event, so on and so forth. This is the place to do it if you're not going to have the best matches, because it only lasted for about 4 minutes or so, I suppose, and only a very limited audience watch NXT. So, if you're having these kind of matches in NXT, I don't think it matters too much, as much as it would if you were having them on the main roster. So, not a good match. Carmella picked at the win with her crossface that she does with her legs. Yeah. Moving on. Justin Gabriel versus Bullshit Dempsey. And I thought this was a decent enough fight. Jason Albert said it best on commentary that whoever won it would be a big win for him, because, if Justin Gabriel wins, he's proven that he's still there, and he's beaten a man who's much bigger, much stronger, much more powerful than him. And if Bull Dempsey were to win, he would have beaten somebody who's a 3-time WWE Tag Team Champion, Gabriel, I believe, holds the record for, as a team with Heath Slater, for the most amount of WWE Tag Team Championship wins. I believe it's tied at 3 each with between Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater and Eminem. But, that's all in the past now. Justin's working down in NXT, as I say, where it's a decent match. But it didn't matter because Bull picked up the win, He hit a running body block, and that was, he didn't sort of run, he sort of ran and then jumped into Gabriel, and actually got a "that was awesome" chant from the crowd, and I thought that was pretty cool. I do crap on Bullshit Dempsey a lot, but I thought that was really good. So, as I say, people want to prove me wrong and say that they're a good wrestler or show me that they're a good wrestler, much like Renee Young did with her commentary. Fair play. I'll always hold my hands up and admit when I've been proven wrong. He followed that up with the diving headbutt, and I'm always surprised when I see that they actually allowed to do it because of the Chris Benoit situation. Obviously, everybody knows the situation with him, the amount of concussions, so on and so forth, that affected his brain. I'm just surprised that they let him use it. That's all. It's bit of a weird one, really, knowing what sort of helped to cause Chris Benoit's problems, and now they're allowing somebody else to use that move. But if they want to let him use it, fine. I think he executes it fairly well. I'm guessing we won't see the bulldozer anymore, even though that was a decent enough finishing move. Hey ho. WWE with their double standards. Marcus Louis versus Sylvester Lefort was advertised as the next match. There was a little promo from Bayley saying she was surprised that Becky Lynch turned on her last week, but if she wants to, if she wants to make something of it between her and Sasha Banks, she'll bring a friend of hers along next week in Charlotte. So we'll get the tag team match next week: Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks versus Charlotte and Bayley. So yeah, after that little promo was shown, Marcus Louis versus Sylvester Lefort was advertised as the next match. Excuse me, but instead we got Baron Corbin versus, I think the guy's name was Tony Briggs. Didn't catch the name, but I think it was Tony Briggs. Didn't catch it clearly. Short match, as you'd expect, but the thing that I thought was really cool about it was that the crowd, from the opening bell, the crowd were chanting 1, 2, 3. See how long the match lasted. 20 seconds. 20 seconds it took for Baron Corbin to hit the end of days. 1, 2, 3, bam. I thought that was really cool. I've never seen anything like that before in wrestling. Obviously the crowd sort of catching on to what Baron's all about, get it over and done with and get the hell out of there. As I say, it's something I've not seen before, and it's, I suppose in a way it's similar to Big E's 5 count, because I hadn't seen a 5 count before Big E Langston came to NXT. And that was something new and something the crowd really got into. So maybe this is something that they can run with for Baron Corbin and see where it goes. Hopefully they can make some sort of gimmick of it. I'm not keen on short matches, as you all know. As per my multiple rants on the Ascension during their NXT Tag Team title run. But if they can make something of it, gimmick-wise, I think it could work. And anybody wants to call me a hypocrite, at Axel Mulligan, feel free. Now we get Sly versus Marcus, and it was another short match. Marcus was just screaming and shouting at Sylvester all throughout, going, "You did this to me!" in his French accent. I can't do a French accent, so don't rip on me because I can. It was another short match. Marcus hit like a rock bottom type move, similar to the one that Bray Wyatt uses. Yeah. Meh. Nothing match. We get a little Hideo Itami promo. He says he's tired of the Ascension's 2-on-1 attacks, and he says he won't be leaving, as per their advice earlier in the show, and that next week he will be bringing a friend with him. Anybody's read the spoilers, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but anybody who's read the spoilers will know exactly who it is. No spoiling it in the comments below, please, because I'll rant at you next week. Sami Zayn versus Titus O'Neil, the main event. The story was told really well in this match, I thought. Sami Zayn being the underdog, Titus O'Neil being the big dog in the yard. And basically Titus was bullying Sami throughout the entire match. He was trash talking him, he was trash talking the crowd. It was brilliant. I love Titus O'Neil as a heel because he can really get under an opponent's skin. He can really get under the crowd's skin. And he's not a great wrestler. Don't get me wrong. He's not a good wrestler. But what he makes up for not having in ring ability, he makes up with in charisma and his mind. His mind is brilliant for the business because he knows how to get heat. As I say, you bully somebody, you trash talk somebody, you trash talk the crowd. Just brilliant work from Titus O'Neil in this match, I thought. Sami probably got in about 10 moves throughout the entire match. And obviously what normally happens in these matches is the underdog does pick up the whip. Sami managed to catch Titus O'Neil with an exploder suplex, and that was really impressive as well, because Titus is like literally fucking twice the size of Sami. And he hit an exploder suplex into the corner, hit him with the haluva kick, nearly called it the Yakuza kick then, hit him with a haluva kick, 1, 2, 3, and Sami Zayn carries on his road to redemption, picking up his first win against Titus O'Neil. So Sami's celebrating his win, and we get the music of Prince Pretty himself, Tyler Breeze, and saying that if Sami wants to continue down his road to redemption, he must beat one man he's never beaten before, and that's Prince Pretty himself, Tyler Breeze. He says he's spoken to William Regal and a match is set for next week. So I'm guessing that would be the main event. It would be silly if it not to be the main event. But I like this idea of this road to redemption for Sami, because it's kind of like what you get in a WWE video game, where you've got the underdog trying to move up but keeps hitting a roadblock on the way, and he keeps knocking him back and knocking him back. And Sami Zayn is obviously, he's a fighter, so he wants to keep progressing, he wants to keep getting over those roadblocks. Similar to, I suppose, to Daniel Bryan last year when he was trying to become the WWE Heavyweight Champion. But now I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Sami, and I really enjoyed this main event as well. As much as I said, Sami probably got 10 or 12 moves in throughout the entire match, the story that was told was really good, and I thought Titus O'Neil played his role perfectly. Doesn't bring up my overall rating enough of the show to make it a credible show, because it was crap. I've given it a 5 out of 10, and that was the main event. Literally, probably brought that up from a 4. Not a great show. Not a great show by any stretch of the imagination. I'm hoping next week's is going to be a lot better with Hideo Itami's friend. I know who it is. Most of you probably know who it is. So do not fucking spoil it for the ones that don't. So as well as Sami Zayn and Tyler Breeze next week, and Hideo Itami's friend coming to help him, we've also got, as I mentioned, Bayley and Charlotte versus Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Should be a decent enough match. Those are probably the 4 most talented divas in NXT. In fact, I think aside from Carmella, they are the only NXT divas. But all these girls, obviously there's Alexa Bliss as well, but all these girls really got some good reviews recently from Triple H himself. So if you're getting the approval of the boss, then you must be doing something right. Only one piece of news this week, and this something that I thought was pretty cool actually. There's going to be 10 NXT talents, so that's 7 wrestlers and 3 coaches that are going to team up with 10 members of the Special Olympics Florida group or team. I'm not sure what it is, but and what they're going to do is attempt to break a world record by trying to pull a 50-ton plate. And the NXT guys are going to coach strength and conditioning to the Special Olympics guys and girls. I'm not sure if it's just guys or guys and girls. But the NXT guys are going to try to teach these guys, coach them with strength and endurance. And it's going to take place in Orlando International Airport, I think it is. And they're basically going to try and pull a 50-ton plate. There's 20 teams taking place in total. And the one thing I didn't find out, which is probably one of the most important things, is when this is going to be. So, there you go. It's going to happen. I just don't know when. But, good luck to all involved with that one. I've not done birthdays this week because, again, I'm late with the show and I'll fuck it all up. So I'm going straight into Grappling Greats, and this is a 2-part Grappling Greats this week. Last week, I covered Vern Gagne. The week before, I covered Fritz von Erich. So moving on from Vern Gagne, and I thought, well, he was the biggest name in the AWA in the 1960s, so I'm going to do the biggest name in the WWF in the 1960s. For me, Bruno Sammartino, hands down. As I say, it's going to be a 2-part Grappling Greats. But yeah, so he was born Bruno Leopoldo Francesco Sammartino in Pisa-Ferrato, Italy on the 6th of October 1935. Bruno was the youngest of 7 brothers and sisters, 4 of whom died while he was living in Italy. His mother used to sneak across, getting like you said, culture there. He used to sneak into their German-occupied town while the family was hiding from German soldiers. This is obviously all during World War II. He caught rheumatic fever, but was nursed back to health by his mother. That was with, I think I read it was with warm blankets and leeches. What that does to help rheumatic fever, I don't know. He moved to the States in 1950, where his father had lived for years in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And upon his arrival, he spoke no English. When he went to school, because he looked so sickly, like I presume by sickly it means like sort of frail, just looked ill basically. He was bullied in school, so he took up weight training and almost made the 1956 Olympic team. And in 1959, Bruno set the world record for a bench press of 565 pounds. He made his pro wrestling debut in Pittsburgh on the 17th of December 1959, pinning Dmitry Grabowski in 19 seconds. Eat your heart out, Baron Corbin. Sammartino's biggest accomplishment came on May the 17th, 1963, when he defeated the first ever WWF champion Buddy Rogers to become champion. He defended the title against legends such as Killer Kowalski, Gene Kiniski, The Sheik, Classy Freddie Blassie, Tarzan Tyler, George Animal Steel, Gorilla Monsoon, Professor Toro Tanaka, and Johnny Valentine, among others. And he defended the title all over the world in countries such as Australia, Spain, Japan, and Mexico. On January 18th, 1971, Bruno Sammartino's reign came to an end after almost 8 years as champion, when he lost to Ivan Koloff at Madison Square Garden. The crowd was stunned into silence, and Bruno thought he'd lost his hearing. Basically, obviously, Bruno was just, you think Hulk Hogan in the 80s, and Bruno was probably as big as Hogan was, if not bigger. Everybody loved Bruno Sammartino. The amount of times that he sold out Madison Square Garden, I don't think that there was. I've seen a few Bruno Sammartino matches, and I can't remember ever hearing one boo in any of those matches for Sammartino, and the crowd just loved him. Basically, what happened after he lost that match, the ring announcer brought the belt into the ring, and instead of giving it to Koloff, like would normally happen, Koloff left the ring, went back to the dressing room. Sammartino stayed in the ring to distract the crowd from Koloff, because otherwise a full-scale riot would have blown off. But Bruno stayed in the ring, and when he eventually left, people started crying, because their hero, their guy Bruno Sammartino, was no longer the WWF champion. He held the title for almost 8 years. I think it's 4 months short of 8 years he'd held the title for. So, obviously an incredible achievement, even in a scripted show. But Bruno was the longest reigning heavyweight champion of any company, whether it was the AWA, the NWA, the WWF, anything. He was the longest reigning world heavyweight champion in history, and still is to this day. But next week on the Grappling Great, so I'm going to cover his return to the WWF, his second run as champion, and his latter years after his career was finished, so on and so forth, and obviously the Hall of Fame induction from last year. That's the end of the show. Only a short one this week, it seems. But the show NXT, as I say, it wasn't that great this week, so makes my job a hell of a lot easier. In 2 weeks' time, there's a House of Hardcore event which I will be covering. It just means that basically I'm out on the piss during the day, but I'm supposed to be going out on the piss. For those of you in the States who don't realise what out on the piss means, it means I'm going to go and get fucking drunk out of my face, basically. But on the 15th, I'm looking to. I will be watching the House of Hardcore event. As I say, I'm sacrificing a night out with my brothers and some friends. But all in the name of professional wrestling, sport we all love. But I will be covering that House of Hardcore event. You've got guys there such as the Hardys, the Young Bucks, Tommy Dreamer. Beulah's making a one-time appearance. I believe Kurt Hawkins is going to be there. Loads of names. Christian York, I believe, is going to be there as well. So, some really big names, not just from like WWE's past or ECW's past, but also from indie wrestling as well. So, it's something to look forward to. I've not seen a House of Hardcore event yet, so I'm going to have to try and get hold of some before then, so I can sort of get a background on the company. I know it's run by Tommy Dreamer, and that's pretty much all I know about it. So, no, definitely something to look forward to for myself, and anybody else who's going to watch as well, obviously. As I say, that's the end of the show. As always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Axel Mulligan. Follow the Axel Analysis account at Axel's Analysis. As I said, I'm going to start to use that page a lot more, because otherwise it just becomes redundant, because I didn't use it for a while. Shout outs as always, Tim Vicious at Tim Vicious and at Tim_Vicious. Make sure you check out Vicious Rants on YouTube. Tim covers Raws and pay-per-views and so on and so forth. Does a really good job. He's nearing 100 shows now. I think he's up to episode 90. So he's been looking for ideas for his 100th show. If anybody's got any ideas of what he can do as like a special attraction for the show, just send them to him. I know he's welcoming any suggestions. So as I say, at Tim Vicious or at Tim_Vicious. He doesn't use the Tim_Vicious account as much, so it's probably best to send it to at Tim Vicious. Sunday Segway podcast, where I will be a guest this Sunday for my semi-final against Shugs after we went out a couple of weeks ago. We went to watch the NFL at Wembley, so I'm back on again this Sunday. You can listen to the Segway on YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, and Stitcher Radio, and make sure that if you listen to them on iTunes, you download you give them a rating, and also check them out on Facebook as well. You can just search Sunday Segway, give them all your opinions on Raws and Raws and pay-per-views when they ask for it. James's Wrestling Ramble. You can find James on Twitter at JamesPowers33. You can listen to James's Wrestling Ramble on YouTube, Mixcloud, and Podomatic. I was a guest on there a couple of weeks ago as well. Tony_Walker, where I was a guest on Tony's podcast last week, which I believe is going. He's going to upload that today. We're talking Monday the 3rd of November, so he's going to upload that today. Where me and Tony, we had a really good time just talking about Hell in a Cell, talking about Raw. Hell in a Cell was a brilliant pay-per-view. Tony agreed with me. We both gave it an 8.5 out of 10 because it was that damn good. But yeah, you can listen to the Wrestling Matters podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, Stitcher Radio, and Mixcloud. As always, if you listen to it on iTunes, give him a rating to get him up the charts. At PW Smart Talk, and my NXT partners in crime, at Graven Babies and at Wayne Mason. And you can look for their blog, masonsringsidereview.blogspot.com. As always, that's the end of the show, and thanks for listening, and I'll be back again next week.